Here we go. Happy Monday, Bengals fans. Stone Shields on hand for another edition of Bengals Breakdown. And coming up on today's show, we're going to fully address some of those comments that Katie Blackburn made at the NFL owners' meetings last week. It's made a lot of headlines. Lots of people talking about Cincinnati. Could they potentially be leaving the Queen City to play elsewhere? Short answer is no, but we will fully dive into that here on today's show. Also, Paul Dehner Jr. of The Athletic has a great piece up really detailing where the Bengals are at as an organization right now, but he did have a specific slot in that article where he discussed Trey Hendrickson, kind of his thoughts on that, and I thought he did a great job of breaking that down, so we're going to discuss that article as well here on today's show. But before we get into that, make sure you guys hit that sub button if you haven't done so already. That's youtube.com/BengalsTV. Our next goal here at the channel is 18,500 subscribers, and we just kind of cleared that 18,000 subscriber threshold, so now we're going for 18.5 here at Bengals Breakdown. Hopefully we can get to 19K by the end of the month of April. Obviously this is draft month, so really we should be able to get a lot of momentum come the end of the month as well. So help us out trying to continue to grow here at Bengals Breakdown. Hit that sub button for me right now. All right, so is this even possible, right? Again, it's made some headlines across the media, right? Several people locally and nationally. Obviously, Mike Florio of NBC Sports kind of had a piece talking about this as well. I thought he kind of took it a little bit out of context, to be completely honest with you. But we're going to spend some time talking about what Katie Blackburn had to say and whether or not it could even be a possibility that the Bengals no longer play in the city of Cincinnati. This is what Katie Blackburn had to say at those owners' meetings. She said, "We play it day by day. Like everything else, we just continue to have discussions, see where things are, and then have to make decisions at the appropriate time. We love where we are. I think that's a great thing for the city. I think the location of the stadium right now is good. Our stadium obviously needs to continue to be maintained appropriately, and you want to keep it at a certain level. That's important, just so that we're competitive with others. But, at the end of the day, we're playing it one day at a time, and it's just we have to see where it all goes. We could, I guess, go wherever we wanted after this year if we didn't pick the option up." Obviously, that last line there really is what's gotten people stirred up and fired up across Bengals country. Leads to the pinned comment of today's show. What's your concern level with the Bengals leaving Cincinnati? You think this is something that could even be a possibility? Are you worried about this, or is this just kind of a ridiculous thing and you're ticked off for even talking about it on today's show? Regardless, pinned comment of today's show, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, you should know the drill by now. You can ignore it. Get down there. Let me know what you think. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. All right, I don't think there's any reason to panic here, right? Obviously, I am a Bengals fan. That's a big reason why I have this job here right now. And I'm not fully really worried about this yet. Again, you've seen some stories pop up both locally and nationally, but if this is really going to get to be a thing where there really is a high likelihood that they could leave, I think you'll see the kind of coverage get picked up. Obviously, we are approaching the deadline, and the lease is up June of 2026. So obviously, we're in the year 2025, and it is only April. The lease ends in June of 2026, but the deadline for extension is June 30th of 2025, which obviously is a couple of months away. So that's kind of why you're seeing some of these talks ramp up here at this point. Now, this has happened before, right? Several years ago in the early 2000s, there was disputes between the Bengals and the county as well. Ultimately, it ended up getting resolved, and the Bengals have played in downtown Cincinnati, ever since the early 2000s, really, when they got what was once Paul Brown Stadium, now, of course, is called Paycor Stadium in that same spot. Now, in my opinion, the Bengals belong downtown, right? I don't currently live downtown. I work downtown. Our Chat Sports offices are here. We drive past Paycor Stadium every single day on the way to work. Got the Red Stadium right across the street as well. The Bengals belong downtown, and I don't think it would be the same vibe, the same atmosphere if they ultimately moved to the suburbs. The suburbs is interesting. Now, when Blackburn threatens leaving, they don't mean leaving completely and going to some different state and not even being close to here. I think when they mean leaving, they mean venturing to the suburbs a little bit. And obviously, there are some NFL teams that do play in the suburbs. I currently live in the suburbs. I think it would be interesting. Several different places in the greater Cincinnati area that you could go. in the suburbs, but it wouldn't feel quite the same. Especially the environment on game day, the crowd. There's just something to being off the banks of the Ohio River that makes it electric, in my opinion, when you go to a Bengals game. As I mentioned, they won't leave, but if they did, they wouldn't go far, right? This isn't something where, like the Baltimore Colts, for example, they left for Indianapolis in the middle of the night. That's not something that would happen here with the Cincinnati Bengals. If a move were to take place, which, again, I consider very, very, very unlikely, they would not be going far whatsoever. Hey, look who's back. It is game time. I want to give a big shout out to our friends over at Game Time, as today's show is presented by Game Time. Game Time makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Last-minute deals save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and a whole lot more. They also have a feature called Game Time Picks that makes last-minute tickets even easier than ever by quickly highlighting the best deals in the stadium. Also, some zone deals save even more when you choose the section and let Game Time choose the seats for you. Really love the all-in pricing. Talking this feature up front allows you to see your total up front so you don't get hit with any of those surprise fees at checkout like some of those other ticketing companies can get you with. Obviously, the Reds are in full swing. Off to a rough start, certainly could say that, but plenty of games left here on this season. Hopefully they can get things turned around. Go over to Game Time, get you some Cincinnati Reds tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, all guaranteed. All right, let's talk a little Trey Hendrickson here on today's show. Obviously, this saga is currently ongoing between Hendrickson and the Cincinnati Bengals. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, Paul Dehner Jr. has a piece up on The Athletic that really breaks down the whole Trey Hendrickson situation and really just kind of gives a full state of the Bengals report. Really encourage you guys to go over to The Athletic. Check out the latest piece from Paul Dehner Jr. It really is good stuff. We're going to be focusing on the Trey Hendrickson stuff here on today's show. Maybe we'll touch on some of the other sections later on a future video. But we're going to ask you guys this question once again. We're going to continue to ask you guys this question throughout the offseason. Have your thoughts kind of changed on this since he went on the Pat McAfee show and created a little bit more drama between himself, his team, and the Cincinnati Bengals? Will Trey Hendrickson and the Cincinnati Bengals reach an agreement this offseason? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Type Y for yes or N for no. Let's take a look at what Dehner Jr. had to write for The Athletic. He said, what's happening this offseason is far from new. So no, the Bengals aren't surprised by how this is playing out. This actually tracks with the Hendrickson experience. He expresses unhappiness with his contract, asks for trades, or makes threats every offseason. He then hunts quarterbacks at an elite rate when it counts. Cincinnati's been willing to call his bluff in previous years and even reached an agreement in 2023 for more money and adding another year on the contract. Signing that deal was Hendrickson's monumental mistake. Otherwise, he would have hit free agency this past offseason and have been clear to sign his mega contract wherever as the top free agent on the market. I think that kind of gets glossed over a little bit, right? Hendrickson went back and agreed to that one-year deal with the Cincinnati Bengals. If he wasn't willing to take that one-year deal, why did he sign it in the first place? I think that was a great job there by Dehner Jr. pointing out the fact that, hey, if Hendrickson didn't go through with that one-year deal with the Cincinnati Bengals, he could have just played out his contract as it was, and then he would have hit free agency. And let me tell you, if he was an unrestricted free agent, Trey Hendrickson would break all kinds of records for how much money he was getting paid. Obviously, that is not currently the situation with the Cincinnati Bengals. And I do like how Dehner Jr. kind of held him accountable, called him out a little bit, right? Trey Hendrickson, I like Trey Hendrickson a lot. I love what he has done for this football team and this city, but he just creates drama in the offseason, and he acts like, oh, I don't really want much. Well, you go out there and you continue to make demands and continue to go out there nationally and, sound off on the Cincinnati Bengals. And as we've talked about here at length on this program, you can't do that with the Cincinnati Bengals. It just causes them to dig their feet in a little bit more and be stubborn. And obviously, this is an organization that has always had a reputation of being a little stubborn. So Hendrickson, Cincinnati, I thought it was great insight there from Paul Dehner Jr. kind of getting his thoughts on what exactly he thought was going down with Hendrickson and the Cincinnati Bengals, and the vibe, he said, at those owners' meetings between, all the owners, obviously the local media was down there for a little bit, was that Cincinnati never had any interest in trading Trey Hendrickson. I totally agree with that, and again, he really kind of set himself up for failure when he signed that one-year extension, because that really wasn't getting him the money that he desired, and he continues just to create drama in the offseason that ultimately has impacted this football team. It gets the Bengals in, national headlines, which I don't think necessarily is a great thing for this football team, but obviously lots of decisions need to be made here in the future between Hendrickson and the Cincinnati Bengals, and to be honest with you, I don't see Cincinnati budging anytime soon. Now, if you made it to the end of today's show, we appreciate you. Show your appreciation by liking today's video for me right now.